What happened to Spanky and our gang?
The story of Spanky and our gang begins in Peoria, Illinois with Elaine McFarlane. In her teens, she was drawn to Chicago, the folk clubs, and the coffee houses, starting her performances at the Fickle Pickle, which was a blues and jazz club where she quickly developed her skills. She later moved to the Birdhouse, singing jazz at night while working at Saks Fifth Avenue during the day. Joining the Jamie Lynn Trio, styled after Lambert, Hendrickson, and Ross, they landed a gig at the Playboy Club with only 3 locations at the time: New York, New Orleans, and Chicago. Elaine later joined the New Wine Singers, performing at Mother Blues in Chicago, run by Curly Tate. She then moved to the west of Los Angeles area, working at Doug Weston's Troubadour, mingling with future members of the Byrds, the Association, the Dillards, and other folk artists. By the winter of 1965 in Coconut Grove, Florida, she met Nigel Pickering and Paul Osbach, leading to the formation of a new group and the adoption of the name Spanky from the Our Gang character. Returning to Chicago, Curly Tate, now managing the London House, invited them to open for some jazz acts. Although their folk and comedy jug band style didn't quite match the beatnik crowd, they refined their craft. Initially, Spanky played washboard and jug, Osbach on stand-up bass and kazoo, and Pickering on guitar. Adding Elaine's friend Malcolm Hale on guitar, they became a 4-piece band, attracting Mercury Records based in Chicago and signing a contract. Curly Tate became their manager, and Jerry Ross, the assigned producer, spent months sharpening and rehearsing them for their first single. Officially billed as Spanky and Our Gang, their studio inexperience showed, but with Ross introducing a new song, Sunday Will Never Be the Same, they secured a spot at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song was co-written by Terry Cashman, known for the 80s hit Talking Baseball. Now at this point, the group had their hit. They added drummer John Cedar, and they headed out to New York, where they lived at the Chelsea Hotel with the likes of Janis Joplin and Leonard Cohen. They started doing the college circuit and started opening for acts like George Carlin and Richard Pryor. So they recorded their first album, a self-titled album called Spanky and Our Gang. However, they were not satisfied because some of the songs were a little too cheesy for them. And at this period, they were opening up for acts like the Bee Gees, the Fifth Dimension, the Turtles, and the Association. And they wanted to do their next album, but they also wanted to do it with a new producer. Thus, they added Stuart Scharf and Bob Dorrell, 2 more Mercury staff producers. Given that they both desired to get better in that area, these guys had to have a strong vocal background. Additionally, Bob Durrell was the brains behind the educational cartoon Schoolhouse Rock in the 1970s. Osbach had departed from the group by the time of this record. Kenny Hodges took his spot. To make the group a 6-piece, they also added another guitarist, Lefty Baker. These 2 new performers were excellent singers and composers as well. Thus, there is a slightly darker vibe to the record altogether. The production is marginally better than on the first album, and the vocalists seem more confident. They became even more daring on the following record. The vocals in these songs are merged, and each song has numerous tempo changes. Without Rhyme or Reason, Any Way You Choose is the name of this album. Give a Damn was the first single to be released from this album. Give a Damn originated when producer Stuart Scharf was asked to write a campaign song for New York Mayor John Lindsay's Urban Coalition League. The song caused some issues with radio airplay because some markets refused to play it because of the title and the word damn. When they played it on the Smothers Brothers show, they also ran into some trouble. Now, even though it was blocked in some markets, it still somehow managed to reach number 43 on the Billboard Hot 100. The following 3 singles flopped on the charts. Even with their excellent quality, it's unbelievable how poor they charted. Their chart success may have been hampered in part by the previous single, Give a Damn. This album is a fantastic blend of pop and jazz, and they did the same with the other tunes. However, with the recent flops, this was a big blow to the group. To make things even worse, Malcolm Hale may have died from carbon monoxide poisoning in late 1968, even though doctors initially believed he had pneumonia. John Cedar joined the Turtles as their permanent drummer shortly afterward. Elaine McFarlane gave birth to her and her husband's son, as if that wasn't enough. At the time, she was married to the road manager for the Turtles. And because of those things, the band decided to call it quits. Because their fan base was still fairly large, Mercury decided to put together a greatest hits package to record one more album. For their next single, Everybody's Talking, they included Malcolm Hale on lead vocals as a tribute to him. Mercury now believed that the fan base was large enough to justify a follow-up album, which was a live album recorded before the debut album. Recorded in Coconut Grove, Florida during their folk jug band comedy days, fans seem to enjoy this album, though I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece by any means. This is probably their worst album. Spanky and Our Gang recorded an album in 1975 that was more of a country record than a reunion record. And it wasn't until the 1980s that Spanky McFarlane made an appearance on the scene. She was a member of the new Mamas and the Papas. She assumed Cass Elliott's former role and teamed up with Mackenzie Phillips, John Phillips, and Denny Doherty, and went on tour with them in the early to mid-1980s. Unfortunately, Osbach died of cancer in September 1998. He was buried at the Blue Ridge Gardens of Memory Cemetery in North Carolina. He was married 4 times and had 7 children: Philip, Kelly, Kim, Jessica, Sarah, Belinda, and Jonathan. Pickering continued to perform as a solo act in clubs, and he stopped playing guitar in the late 2000s due to arthritis, but continued to sing. After fighting liver cancer, he died on May 5, 2011, aged 81 in St. Augustine, Florida. Sider subsequently remained active in the music scene, recording with such varied performers as Aztec Two-Step, Jane Getz, Tom Waits, and the Conception Corporation. His younger brother Jimmy is also a noted drummer. And Spanky McFarlane is still alive and well, and in the past 20 years, she occasionally brings back the Spanky and Our Gang moniker with no other original members. And that's what happened to Spanky and Our Gang. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Give me some facts about the band that I failed to mention, and let me know who I should do next on this channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.